All right, we're reading Little Legends, The Great Troll Rescue by Tom Percival, and we are on Chapter 12, What's in a Name? I don't believe it, the witch screamed. The huntsman chopping had finally caught her attention. Seriously? Are you seriously going to side with them against... She paused. Me? Nothing personal, ma'am, said Wilf, but I ain't like you. I've never been wicked. Not deep down. And while I'm saying all this, you know that young lass you told me to take out into the woods and take care of last year? Yes, hissed the witch. Well, I did take care of her, the witch nodded. Glad to hear it. You don't understand, replied Wilf. I'm still looking after her. I found her a room at the corner of a cottage, and there's 7 little fellas that live there with her. Every other Sunday I go over there for lunch. The witch glared at him coldly. You have failed me, huntsman, she hissed. See, that's just it, said Wilf. I'm not really a huntsman, not in my heart. In my heart, I'm a... You're a what? Spat the witch. I'm a woodsman, he said proudly. Is that so? Screeched the witch. Then you shall have your wish. She clicked her fingers, and Wilf suddenly froze. For a moment he looked surprised, then his skin hardened and darkened, becoming pitted like bark. In less than 3 seconds it was impossible to tell that the tree that now stood there had ever been a person. No! Screamed Red, stepping out from behind her cage, where her friends were trapped. How could you? It was quite simple, actually, said the witch. I only used a basic shape-shifting spell, with a few extra touches, but you're right. To do it with just a click of my fingers was rather impressive. Red glared at the witch, as an idea came to her. What other things can you do? She asked. I bet you couldn't turn me into a skeleton just by, I don't know, tapping me on the nose. Simple, exclaimed the witch, and almost took a step out of the magical circle toward Red. She looked down at her feet and then looked back at Red with something almost like respect. Clever girl, she muttered, nodding slowly. Not quite clever enough, though. Red's heart sank. So much for her brilliant plan. And now I shall turn you into a skeleton, continued the witch, grinning a jagged smile from awful ear to awful ear. But over here, she clearly felt this was a good time for a really evil cackle, and even went so far as to start off with a mwahahaha. Red wasn't listening. She was looking at the witch's magical army. None of the new creatures had become fully solid yet, and the spell seemed to be slowing down. It looked like Cole's fairy magic wasn't strong enough to power the witch's dark spell. Perhaps there still was a way out of this, after all. Hey, she shouted, interrupting the witch mid-cackle. Hey, you! You dare address me thus? Demanded the witch. I guess I do, said Red. The witch's mouth gaped, utterly lost for words. Anyway, continued Red, I've heard there's a wicked witch that's so evil she can turn laughter into snakes. You've heard of her, right? The witch frowned and shook her head. Red pretended to look surprised. Really? That's odd. I thought everyone knew about her. She's got the largest magical army this side of far, far away. People say that her level of wickedness could never be matched. They say that all the other witches are about as evil as hamsters compared to her. The witch's eyes goggled. Nonsense, she hissed. I am all-powerful. This other witch will kneel before me. Fair enough, replied Red. But you need a bigger army. Huntsman, screamed the witch. Chain this girl up. I need to... Oh, she suddenly remembered she just turned her huntsman into a tree. Never mind. I shall create the army the size of which has never been seen before. She raised her hand high into the air, pulling magic out of Cole at a faster and faster rate. The whole world will tremble at my approach. The witch's hand spun through the air. A wind picked up and roared through the dungeon, almost knocking Red from her feet. Gah! Screamed Rapunzel, Anansi, Jack, and Ella from inside their cages. What? Clucked Betsy over the din. My name will bring dread and fear to all who hear it, screamed the witch. I will flatten mountains and... What is your name anyway? Yelled Red through the wind that rushed past. What? yelled the witch, dropping her hands for a moment. My name, it's Shirley. Shirley the incredibly evil. Now be quiet. I'm in the middle of a rant. Where was I? Oh, yes. The skies will blacken at my approach. It will always be summer, but never summer vacation. As the witch went on and on and on and on, Red watched the magic flowing out of Cole start to sputter and jolt as if it was running out. The ghostly magical creature in the room flickered in and out of sight. I've just got one more question, shouted Red, interrupting the witch yet again. The witch rolled her eyes. What now? If you're so amazingly evil, how come I've never heard of you? The witch glared at Red with a look of pure fury. Soon everyone will have heard of me, she screamed. She turned to Cole and tried to increase the speed and power of the spell even more. The dungeon became a throbbing, roaring mass of half-made creatures and wild magic. Sparks flew in all directions as the witch closed her eyes and gritted her teeth, desperately trying to make Cole release more and more magic, until eventually the spell broke. The witch's magical army began to fade. Like old balloons, they became wrinkled and soft. Soon, all that was left was a collection of faintly glowing shapes where the beasts used to be, and a moment later, even those were gone. Red glanced over to see Cole lifting his head groggily. The powerful, roaring wind had stopped completely and was replaced by something even more terrifying. Silence. The witch's cold, terrible rage. What have you done? Screamed the witch. You've ruined everything. Red took a few steps back, toward the edge of the dungeons. I'll make you sorry, continued the witch, starting to walk toward Red. I shall create an enchantment so strong that it can never be broken, and you will not enjoy it one little bit. The witch was getting closer and closer, her eyes blazing furiously. Cursing you will be easy, she hissed. Anger is the strongest emotion, and when you combine it with my power, it is unstoppable. She laughed a cruel, bitter laugh, raised her hands high in the air, and swept them down toward Red. Red had no time to think or say anything. She flung her hands around her head and curled up into a ball. A furious heat filled the room, along with a light brighter than any Red could have thought possible. A scream rang out, and it took a second for Red to realize that it wasn't coming from her. She looked up to see the witch's face twisted with horror as she realized her mistake. She was now outside the magic circle. Swirling lights spun in, dizzying circles, getting brighter and brighter and brighter with each moment. I suppose it's too late to say I'm sorry? Asked the witch, as the light reached a blinding point of brilliance and flared out across the dungeon with a roar. The light fell away. Where the witch had been standing was a small sizzling pile of something, surrounded by the gruesome skull necklace. As soon as the witch had vanished, so did her magic. Wilf turned back into a normal person, the kind who doesn't grow leaves, and the prison of thorns crumbled into dust. Anansi ran over to his mom, who was slumped against the wall, recovering from the effects of the magic, while Red and Ella dashed toward Cole to check that he was all right. Jack, Rapunzel, and Betsy just looked around the dungeon in amazement. It had been quite a day. So what now? Asked Rapunzel. Same as before, Anansi grinned, as he helped his mother to her feet. We've rescued my mom, so now we've got to get out of here. After we've set all of them free, added Red, indicating the hundreds of magical beasts that were still chained up. Wilf, have you got a set of keys? What makes you think I need keys? The woodsman grinned, holding up his axe. They'll be out of those chains in no time.